Today's conversation is about employment law in Uganda, the do's and the don'ts in our workplaces. We are joined by Alan. He's from Barefoot Law and he's a lawyer, and he's going to help us to understand about employment laws in Uganda. Welcome to The Outlook. I'm called Rebecca and I'm your host. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm happy to be here as well.
It's great to have you. Please tell us what is employment? Who is an employer? Who is an employee?
Well, employment is a relationship. So I'm going to start with the people who are in this relationship.
Yes.
In a relationship, there is an employer, there's an employee. So an employer is a person who buys your time, your 8 to 5 every day.
Right.
And an employee is that person who's good at something and sells their time to that person who we've called the employer from 8 to 5 days or 6 days a week, in exchange for a certain amount of payment, which we call a salary. The 8 to 5 is the norm, what everybody normally knows is, I get to work at 8, I leave at 5 p.m. But of course, you and your employer can always agree and you say, we won't be working 8 to 5. Instead, you'll be showing up at 6, 7 p.m. You'll leave at 10, 9 p.m., stuff like that. As long as it's within a set amount of time that the two of you have agreed, that works for both of you. Yeah.
Okay. And of course, there are rights that an employee has under the laws of this country. So, which are the major rights that you would like our viewers to know about?
Okay. An employee, I think the most important thing to an employee is to get paid, right?
Right.
They have a right to be paid a salary on time and in a currency for that country. We're in Uganda, so that means as an employee, I expect to be paid in Uganda shillings. I expect either on my bank account or in cash. And part of that right means that you will not pay me in sweet potatoes, you will not pay me in Irish. I expect to be paid in money terms, a currency. Apart from that, you also have a right, because you learned something, you went to school, spent all those years, so you expect that you're supposed to be given work to do. So it's your right to be given work by your boss. If you simply show up this month, sit, go home, come back tomorrow, do it, month ends, second month, then that means your employer is not doing something right with you. They're supposed to give you the work that you're supposed to do, so that you also feel fulfilled as an employee. Apart from this, there are the basic rights we get when we're at the workplace. We have things like leave. Now, leave is divided into like so many different forms. Leave, when we say leave, we really mean rest. The time you get off to rest. Basically, you cannot work 365 days in a year. You are going to find that you work maximum 5 to 6 days. You have a day off in between. So if you work 5 days, they expect that you get Saturday, Sunday. If you work 6 days, at least you will get Sunday off. That's your right. Now, apart from that, there is a point you'll get to when you're simply worn out, you're tired, you're burnt out, and you expect to rest. So by law, you have 21 plus days, depending on what you agree with your employer. So that's what we call annual leave. Apart from this, we sometimes will fall sick. We have mosquitoes here. We have all kinds of other things. Yeah, you know it. Yes. So because of this, you have what they call sick leave. Now, sick leave is something you're going to agree between you and your boss. Now, by law, when you fall sick, you will not be in a position to work. However, you will still have a right to be paid, because your understanding is, I own you and your skills for, let's say, a year or 2, 3 years. Even if you fall sick, we still have a relationship between us. So I expect to be paid as an employee. So if for a whole month I've been sick, I still will expect to be paid. For the second month, I will still expect to be paid. But then that's why it might change up a bit, because you'll say, for 2 months I've been paying this person, but the person's been sick. Maybe that's when the relationship will change a bit and you'll say, I think I might need to let you go or something like that. But generally speaking, you have a right to still receive your salary even when you're sick. There are a number of days. Different workplaces will give you different numbers of days. Apart from this, we also have, in the case of the women, you might get pregnant, you might give birth, or unfortunately, you could get a miscarriage. Now, if that were to happen, we have what we call maternity leave. By law, it's expected that you'll get 60 working days. So when we say 60 working days, we don't mean 60 days, we mean 60 of the days you should be in office. So if you work Monday to Friday, you count those 5 days, count the next 5 days from Monday to Friday until you get 60 days. If you work Monday to Saturday, you'll count Monday to Saturday as you complete your 60 working days. Now, of course, public holidays are not included. Like we've said, the weekends are not included. So those are 60 working days. So usually when you add it up, you find someone saying, I think I have like 6 months of maternity leave. They don't mean they have 60 working days. They don't mean they have 90 working days. They have 60 of the working days, and of course the weekends, the public holidays, and all that. Thank you very much. Now, fathers, on the other hand, also have a leave because you've just become a father. You need to help your partner cope. You also need to come to terms with that fatherhood. Okay, some will be celebrating, some will be helping their partner with this, that at home. So before we had, I believe, over 5 days, but now the law has extended that by some. So we now have a little longer to stay home, help our partners, play with the bouncing baby boy or girl, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. And you mentioned hours. You mentioned 8 to 5, and so does the law have anything in particular that says you can only work for these hours? Or
okay, so it has a minimum end and a maximum end. So for most of us, when I say you work Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, it's the equivalent of me saying you work 8 hours a day and you're going to only work for 48 hours. So when I say Monday to Friday and you're working 8 hours, when you add that up, the math, which I didn't do exceptionally at in school, you come to 48 hours. But the law also allows, yes, but the law then will also allow certain workplaces to say, you know what, you could extend if you think it's necessary. That's why you hear some people will work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, when you add that up, it's going to come to 56 hours in a week. The law does allow that as well. The only exceptions to, if everybody else works 48 hours, the only exception you will have are people who are at a level of management. The law allows that exception where it says, you know what, if everybody is working this number of hours, you could come to a different arrangement with people who are on the management team and above, like the CEOs and the rest, to maybe work those extra hours, but they will not exceed the 56 hours. So even if you come to whatever arrangement you come to in a period of 3 weeks, you should not exceed 56 hours a week.
yes, that's very clear. And I know there are some people that are faced with sexual harassment and harassment of different kinds. Yes. It doesn't just have to be sexual harassment in the workplace. What does the law say about harassment in the workplace?
It's good that you've broken it down that way. Right. Let me touch a little on general harassment of any form or shape, and then we'll touch the sexual harassment. Now, it's your employer's duty and role to make sure that the workplace is conducive and safe for you to work in. That means your employer must make sure that when you walk into the workplace, okay, walk in with a smile. If you're working out, yes, at least tell us, oh, I'm just tired, I worked that hard, but you're not working out because you're like, I honestly can't handle being in this place much longer. So if your employer is doing their job right, you'll be happy. There shouldn't be harassment. If there is harassment, we'll say you have a toxic work environment, and that's a problem. So you can bring it to the notice of your employer and just say, you know what, this and this is making it difficult for me to work here. Fix it. It's your right. They shouldn't tell everyone, oh, you know, Rebecca told us this place is toxic. So everybody will not say, man, that's Rebecca there. No, that's wrong. They should keep it confidential. They should fix that thing that makes it difficult for you to work on that one hand. If they should fail, the other remedies in law, you could actually walk out and just say, you know what, you just made it difficult for me to work here. That's why I left. Now, if we're talking about sexual harassment comes down to this in simple terms, that somebody in a workplace, either by things they do, it could be words, it could be actions, like, those people who like to touch others, the weird people. It could be that, or it could even be small gestures, small things that a person will do and make you feel uncomfortable over sexual nature, That's sexual harassment. And it comes down to this, that sometimes a person will, if they have authority over you, try and do these things in an expectation that you will either give them a sexual favor of some sort to either keep your job, get a promotion, or not be fired, something like that. Yes. Now, if it's something like that, that there's that expectation and that's why they're doing these things, that's sexual harassment. Now, the position of the law is this, that when you have people who you're working under, I think 25 people and above, if your workplace has like 25 people and above, you need to put in measurable policies and things that fight sexual harassment. Right. Now, that means you're going to have a sexual harassment policy. It could be a separate document. You could make it part of your HR manual. If it isn't that, you're failing. Apart from that, you need to make sure there is a committee. You could have a committee as part of maybe the HR team that deals with incidences, like they can report and say, I was harassed or I feel uncomfortable because of what this or the other person is doing. People should be able to report. You need to have where you document this, because as you know, sometimes not everything gets resolved at that level. Now, if the government through its different bodies like the labor office or the courts come and ask, what did you do when this person reported? They need to have a record that shows this is what they reported, this is how we dealt with what they said, and if they were not happy, these are the records. If they were happy, this was closed in this and this way, the person was disciplined, this was done. Now, if you have all those measures in place, sexual harassment could be dealt with at that level. You will report a case, they will sit, possibly suspend that person and deal with that situation, and it's out of the way. However, if it isn't, then you can escalate or take it further. You could go to a court of law, you could go to a labor office. By the way, when I say labor office, yes, I'm talking about that department at a district level or a government level that deals with issues that come up between me, the employee, and you, my employer. Because we can't always argue these things out because one of us has a higher bargaining power. So there's that office you go to and resolve your differences. So it handles these instances of sexual harassment when they do come up and they're not...
Right. Thank you so much for that elaborate discussion.